Hello and welcome to the Birchal podcast. My name is Emily. I'm your host, and today I'm here with Ben Reed, the founder of Merchar, which is a company that is reimagining the way that other companies look at merchandise. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Thanks for coming all the way from San Diego.
Yes, San Diego, yes. By way of Sydney, well, Chicago, then Sydney, then it's lovely to be here, though. I love being in Melbourne, especially when you can see the blue in the sky. Hey?
Yeah, it's unusual, isn't it?
It is.
So I'd love to hear a little bit about why you came up with the concept of Merchar. I mean, obviously, merchandise has been a huge thing. It's been around for a long time. I mean, you look at in the 80s, it's pens, mugs, that kind of thing. Why are you kind of shaking things up now?
Yes, good question. So I guess a confession. I actually don't come from the industry. So I'm actually one of the only people on the team that is not an industry veteran. So my co-founder, Sam, has been in the industry for a long time. He's actually a generational promotional products guy. So his dad was in promotional products as well. And anyways, he, even being in the industry all that time, he at one point had to order merch for a personal project. And he had, been working in the business, but had never actually had to order something personally. And he went through the process of ordering it and went through a competitor of ours who will remain nameless, but after going on a website and ordering a quote, I think 19 emails and 5 days of back and forth, and he still didn't have an answer, right?
Yeah.
And so anyways, he came away from that experience thinking that there had to be a better way. And so he had this idea to bring the experience online, bring it into the 21st century. And that's kind of about the time that I got connected with him through kind of a friend and mentor of ours who's also a co-founder, lovely guy named Neil Helm. And anyways, we looked at the problems that were inherent in the industry, and Sam was kind of educating us on all of the the problems that businesses face, but also a lot of the kind of intricacies of the industry here and things that could be improved. And we realized this is something that is literally like a diamond hiding in plain sight. Merch is literally everywhere. I know we talked about it in our branding, everything. But that was probably the first revelation I had when I started learning about the industry from Sam was, I'd be walking around and I'd be at my local coffee shop and I'd see them wearing a branded polo. And then I'd be in the airport for work and I would be, walking past guys wearing business shirts with logos on it. It literally is everywhere if you stop and look around. But the problem is most of it is very low quality, I'd say. I think there is a well-known statistic that I think 66% of promotional products end up in landfill. It's terrible, right? And like we were talking about this just before we started, I'm a big fan of nature. I've always spent a lot of time in the outdoors. I was just sharing that story where at one point I actually went out in the wilderness for a month and come back. I've always been big into the mountains, and all of the things that I love to do are all in nature. And so I made I've made a concerted effort for a long time to think consciously about what we use and what we consume. And so bringing that kind of mindset into the business, we looked at a lot of what was being sold, and a lot of it, frankly, is made to fail. It's not made to last. A lot of it's made to be single use.
Why is that?
Price point usually.
Okay.
And you can get good quality things that are not super expensive. And there are a lot of products, and if you go onto our site right now, we have a curated range of products. Sam has literally held and felt and touched and tested just about everything on there. We reject most products we see. So the pieces that you see on there have already been vetted by us and vetted by the team. But a lot of it is, I'll give you an example. We had a radio station in Sydney, remain nameless, and they wanted I think they wanted 500,000 or a million plastic whistles for a New Year's Eve thing, right? They did not need or want the whistles to last, right? They were meant to be single use. And we rejected the order, and at that time, it would have been a really lovely order for us to have. It would have been a lot of money. But that is just an example of a company going and looking for something to tick a box without really thinking about, the underlying cost of that. Those things were just going to end up in the harbor. They were going to end up in the bin. All of the time and effort to create that product overseas, the materials that went into it, the labor that went into it, the flying it over here, all of those things, which we don't always think about when we purchase things, to just get thrown into, a bin. It just doesn't make sense. So that idea, and something that we are really strongly passionate about, is that if it's on our side, it has to be made to last, and it has to be made fairly. The term sustainability gets bandied about a lot, right? And there's a lot of greenwashing and things like that. And we're not perfect, and we have a lot of things that we could do to improve. But we again stick to that idea of just simply having things that are made to last, right? Because something that's made to last is inherently more sustainable. So anyway, so that is kind of one aspect, I think, that has caused this issue where a lot of products are finding themselves in landfill. A lot of promotional products finding themselves in landfill. And the fact is, promotional products are a tremendous asset for a brand if they are done well. Like they are, I'm wearing my Merchant t-shirt, of course. I've worn this t-shirt, 50 or 100 times. And the fact is, it's good quality, it's comfortable, it fits well. I like the way the branding, is, it's subtle. So promotional products can do a tremendous service to a brand if they're done well. And if they're, if you choose the quality route. And the quality these days doesn't have to be expensive. We have things at multiple price points that are all good quality. But, back to our earlier, to talking about the 66% of things that land in landfill, we don't want our customers' brands to end up in landfill. So we're consciously thinking, if we have a good product, it's a good quality product and print, of which we look at those as two different products. If you provide a good product with good print, that piece of merchandise, whether it's a bottle or a pen or a T-shirt, it can have a tremendous benefit to your brand in the long term. But again, the opposite is also true. So, anyways, that. Sorry, I went on a quality tangent there.
Oh, tangents are very welcome on the Birchal podcast. I love a tangent.
It does happen. I get excited, and I will do that. So I reserve my right to do that.
Look, you've got your children that you actually produce yourself, and then you've got your business, which is the children. So
that's right. Yep. And that's a really good way of looking at it. Hey, because they both have their highs and their lows.
Oh,
yeah.
As a childless woman, I'm sure that is true.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a dorky dad. I'm not going to go down that path, but you love your kids like nothing else, and you only want the best for them. And in a lot of ways, you put a lot of time and effort into.
Same for business.
Same with the business. Know? So I like to say, that I've got 3 children, and this is my family always comes first. So that's a rule we have across the business in general, across all of us, is that family always comes first. But yeah, the business, it's my baby, and it's Sam's baby,
child.
And it's Neil's baby, and it's Brian's baby, right?
Yeah.
And fortunately, we've got some great people on the team, that feel that way about it as well, which is, I think, why we're seeing the success that we're seeing.
When you're coming through equity crowdfunding and raising capital in that way, do you look at it like you're bringing on board new family members?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if I step back and think about the question of crowdsourced funding in general, so I'll step back. I remember seeing Google for the first time when I was in uni, right? And at that time, nobody knew Google was going to be what Google was. I'm not going to tell you when it was because that'll show my age, but this is before Google was public or anything like that. And then I remember seeing, a year or two after I had graduated, I remember seeing Google come out, and they did what was called a Dutch-style auction IPO, which not many people know that. It's a very different way of doing an IPO. And I always liked and respected Google for that. I wouldn't say I like and respect Google in general, especially now, but that's another story for another time. But I like that they did that. And the reason they did it is because it was democratizing the investment in Google at that time. And, there are, I suppose, the older I've gotten and the more cynical I've gotten, I don't like the fact that a great deal of the capital flows that go into companies at all stages, the whole VC arena and, private equity and things like that, they're held by a very concentrated amount of people, and IPOs generally first serve the bankers and the early investors that jump into a company, and everyone else kind of gets the scraps. Even if you're an investor, and I've been a retail investor since I was about 18 or 19. So I've always had a problem with that. I've always had issue with that. So I like the crowdsource funding piece and the fact that it is a way to kind of democratize the investment. And we're an early stage startup. There's risk involved. You could lose all your money. It is what it is, right? And that's the case for every startup. I don't care how well honed your pitch is. I would say, we've got a great business. We're improving it all the time. We have an incredible management team, a great plan. I would argue the best product is in our platform. But there's still inherent risks in doing it. But I think for the people that are willing to take the risks in order to reap the rewards, of which investing is all just on a scale of risk and reward, I think the CSF path allows you to get into companies earlier than you would have the option to do otherwise. And so therefore, for anybody that puts down, whether it's $1 or 10,000, or, we're an expression of interest now, and we've had a few that have come through much larger amounts than we kind of expected to see. It's not that, say that we'll close all of them, but, if you were putting $1 into something or 10,000, to me, that is worthy of me saying thank you to you for taking a vote on us, right? Because you're voting on us. You're voting on the business. So yeah, I think we do look at it that way. We certainly look at it that way, for the people who have jumped in and invested in us, at a very early stage, of which, there's the 4 founders, but then we have a few lovely investors as well, and a couple of VCs that have backed us early. And we have a lot of, they are like a family to us, in good ways and bad, just like families are usually in good ways and bad. But anyways, I do like the idea of the democratization of it, and anybody who's willing to put down $1 on a company, obviously do your research, but we welcome you, and we thank everybody who comes to the board and decides to back us.
So you've obviously gone through venture capitalists previously to raise funds,
yep.
And now you're at the point of coming through equity crowdfunding.
Yep.
Do you foresee in the future that you'll need to raise more funds to grow and expand into other verticals or horizons?
That's a question I think you always, look, most companies on their trajectory rely on a number of funding rounds over time, right? To me, I look at the funding rounds as we have a set of milestones that we want to hit. So we've never brought on much funding, as in we were fully self-funded, as in we bootstrapped it, the 4 founders, until 2023, early 2023.
When did you start the company?
We launched it officially, so our quote-unquote official launch of our MVP, or minimum viable product, or Sam likes to say our minimum lovable product, was in February of 2022.
Okay, so it's really new.
Yeah, it's about two and a half years. It doesn't seem like that. Well, sometimes it seems very quick, and sometimes not. And we've done a lot of work before then, but that's when we officially launched it to market, which is always a super exciting thing for a founder because, there's a lot of ambiguity that is involved in starting a startup, right?
Yeah.
And, we have we have a tremendous team, the 4 founders and, the other people on our team. We did a lot of, research. We interviewed customers. We talked to people about the problem. We did a lot going into, into preparing to build the platform, build the business. All that preparation doesn't really make that much difference if you launch something and people don't buy what you sell, right?
Yeah.
So that pivotal moment where you launch something and then people actually go on the platform and they start buying stuff from you, and then they start buying from you again. That's the, you hear the fancy term product market fit. That's really what product market fit is to me. It's, do you have happy paying customers, right? Of which we do now. And we're fortunate to have, some very big customers who've, we weren't pursuing that into the market, but, as an example, there's, Samsung. Samsung, I think. I do. People have heard of Samsung. It's a pretty big company. They found us, through our advertising efforts. And I think, and I want to make sure it is Samsung. I would have to ask Sam, but it was a big name like that, big consumer electronics company. And I think the interesting feedback for them was we had delivered, so they were able to go online. They dragged a logo onto the product. They clicked and they ordered and checked out in about 3 minutes. And
wow.
We have a very refined production management process in the back end. We built a beautiful proprietary piece of software that drastically reduces the time to get an order into production, of which production is really where the magic happens in custom branded merchandise, but it's also tremendously complex. So we built this piece of software that gets an order into production very quickly. And anyways, we delivered the product to the customer before their incumbent had even provided them with a quote, right? Which was very interesting.
That's crazy.
Right? It was just crazy, right? But yeah, so we launched the MVP in February of 2022, and we again had a kind of period where is this working? Is it not working? In the first 6 months, you're just trying to figure things out. You're trying to manage a bunch of different balls in the air and make sure none of them drop on the floor. And at the end of the day, what we did most in that period is just talk to a lot of customers, right? And everybody that came through and bought something from us, we pick up the phone and call them. We called it our high-tech, high-touch approach. It was something that was taken from OzForex, of which Neil, who's a co-founder, was the CEO of OzForex. Actually, as a small aside, Sam worked for Neil as his first job. That's their connection. And so that high-tech, high-touch approach where we literally pick up the phone and call a customer, it's something that is not it's not widely used in digital businesses, and especially businesses that grow to large scale, because it takes a lot of time, effort, money, people, hours. If you think about like Facebook as a business, if you ever go, I don't know if you ever run across advertisements or anything on Facebook or anything, if you deal with it as a company, it's almost impossible to talk to a human there.
We do it every day. Our entire backend is trying to understand why all of our ads are getting blocked by Meta. It is a nightmare, and you can never get onto
And you
a
can never
human.
get a hold of them, right? And that's by design, right? So by design, we thought it was important, because we're a digital business, to just have a connection point with the customers up front. And we started doing that when we launched, and we still do it today. So if you come through and you're a first-time customer, you'll get a phone call if you place an order with us, and you probably won't get a phone call again after that unless you want one. But either way, in the early days, in that first 6 months, we were just trying to figure stuff out, making sure that we were delivering on our promise of providing good quality branded merch to people that were going to that was going to help build their brand, and and that's what we did. And then getting back to the conversation about what investments and what funding came into the business. Again, we didn't bring any money into the business until 2023, like external money, not bootstrap money. And that was just us, finding a couple of partners that we really liked. It wasn't really that we were looking for VC funding. The business has always been fairly strong structurally, as in financially, so we haven't really it hasn't been very cash hungry. But we're at the point now where we're growing really fast. We grew 130-something% year on year, so our revenue more than doubled. Very importantly, it doubled while we improved a lot of our key metrics. So our average order value went up, our margins went up, our operational costs as a percentage of revenue went down. Like, we did a lot to strengthen and tighten the business. So we're in a really good position now. And again, when we talk about funding rounds and whether or not you take future funding rounds, the last funding round we did was to deliver a set of things. And when you bring in funding to the business, you're doing it to reach a couple of milestones. So the raise that you're doing now is really to get you kind of to the next raise, if you will.
Yeah, right.
Now that said, like, we had several months in the last year that were profitable, and we are if we scaled back our advertising push, which we don't intend to because it's a disruption play, and advertising is super important to that. We could be profitable tomorrow, right? So it's a conscious decision, because we think it's a land grab. We think we have the best product. We think we're disrupting the industry. And we don't just think. Like, we've had some interesting feedback from competitors lately, which tells me more than anything that we're doing the right thing and we're ruffling some feathers, which is good. We love that. That sort of PR you can't buy. And our customers tell us all the time, like, it's just so much easier. But importantly, it's what we have today is literally step one. So we built the kind of transaction engine, but the future view of the platform is really, to me, the most interesting piece. I love the product and the platform and the technology. That's what gets me up in the morning. That's what I get excited about. We just did this huge UX, UI, user experience and user interface revamp of the platform, which I love seeing, you do these little things, based on what the customers tell you, and then to see it have a result, like, that's what excites me. And so this round, in this, this crowdsourced funding piece, the next set of milestones for me, if we're successful and we get the amount away that we want to, which I'm confident we will, we have a set of technology milestones that will kind of evolve the platform to the next step.
Amazing.
And so that's kind of where we want to go from here. So, long way of saying, we will bring in funding as and when it makes sense. And I think now it does. In the future, maybe it doesn't. When we have the platform in Australia, which we kind of look Australia as our, we want to get it absolutely humming here. We want it to be as good of a platform as it can be before we really think about going elsewhere.
Australia's a great test for that.
It's a great test. You have a very high percentage of people who are online. In particular, most of the people that go online to research and ultimately end up clicking buy, they're younger, they're millennials, they're digital natives, right? So, for an industry that's traditionally been driven by emails and phone calls and things like that, there's a real disconnect between what most of the industry does and what we're trying to do.
100%. I've actually had experience in this myself. I used to work for an experiential marketing agency, and I won't name our clients specifically, but it was one of the largest beauty brands in the whole world. And to get merchandise made, anything that we wanted, it was countless emails back and forth, calls, having to get samples to actually ensure that the quality was up to standard for this brand. And inevitably there'd be a problem, and you'd have to go back and forth. And it was so time consuming. The lead time to actually get the products actually never correlated with the turnaround time that we needed to get these events live. And it was such a headache. I really wish that Mercha existed when I worked there, because looking at your platform and the interface and everything that goes into actually creating a business that makes things a lot more seamless than what you're used to, it's a game changer. And I'm sure your competition is concerned about that, because you've obviously gone to the effort. Like Sam has come into the business, generational promotion. That's an interesting term, actually, generational promotional material expert.
Yeah. I mean, he's literally his dad, Stephen, who I also know, and he's awesome. He comes from the game as well, right? So Sam has grown up through this.
Yeah. It's so interesting. But obviously you've been around for a short time, but there's got to have been some mistakes that have been made or something that's gone wrong. What's been the biggest mistake that you've made and the biggest learning that you've taken from it?
Yeah, very, very good question. And thank you for your kind words about the platform. We think it's awesome, but it's nice to hear other people say it's awesome. There are many. The road of entrepreneurship and startup is riddled with failure, right? So most things fail, and the most important thing is you hope to learn from them, right? So I guess the two things that spring to mind first are a simple just failure to deliver on what we said we're going to deliver with the customer, right?
Right.
So there's actually a lovely woman in Melbourne and works for a big construction company, head of marketing, and we didn't deliver. We didn't call her like we said we were going to call her after she ordered, right? So the high touch, we didn't call her. The order took longer than it was supposed to, and we didn't communicate that to her, right? This was very early days. This was still in our MVP phase when we were really trying to sort things out and figure things out, right? And we didn't have defined processes or anything like that. So that was a very in that early phase where everything is super new and exciting, to then have this woman who came back to us, and I was super grateful that she did, because oftentimes people will have a bad experience with you and they just don't come back, and they tell other people, but they don't come back and give you the feedback. She did us the favor of coming back and giving us the feedback of, you didn't call me. The process, from the time the order went through until the time I actually received the order, I didn't hear anything. She taught us so much about what we weren't doing right. I ended up sending her a bunch of flowers, and we talked to her on the phone. Sam and I both called her, talked to her on the phone, and we convinced her to come back and get another order from us and, address the issues, and she's still a customer today. So that was a really good news story.
Feedback is worth its weight in gold.
It is. Honestly, it's, you wish for more of it. I think it's the curse of starting a business is that you're always constantly looking for what's wrong. We don't often stop and look at what's working and what's right. We're always looking for what's wrong. So when a customer, especially somebody like that who is, that's almost squarely our target market, comes and tells us these are simple things that you just didn't deliver on, right? And they're not, they weren't digital problems. We just didn't have a process, and we didn't do what we said we were going to do, right? So that is, like you said, worth its weight in gold. So that was one circumstance that was very early on that we learned a lot from, and we've gotten better at, I think. Another one was more on the digital side. So again, looking at the product, and we had this idea. So there are a couple of companies outside of Australia, a couple in the US, really more just a couple in the US, but a couple in Europe as well that we kind of look at as inspiration. And one of them in particular had this feature that we thought was great. And we went out and we basically just tried to build a copy of the feature, right? Mm-hmm. And we tried to shoehorn that copy into our existing website, and it just didn't work. And we, it's like if you cook, you're going to burn a pancake every now and then. So we burnt the pancake, and we had to shut it off, and we'll have to rebuild it. And we're still definitely going to do it, but we just, in the haste of just trying to get things done, we didn't think through really what the customer's journey was going to be, right? We didn't really think through how the UX was going to work. We just thought we were launching this great feature, and the feature was going to be really useful. And we spent time and effort and money on it, and people still use the feature, but we ended up getting, again, really good feedback from another kind of, it's actually one of the people who's invested in the business, and he actually went through and tried to use the feature, and we were, kind of scratching our heads, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? And some of the problems I knew, and I just thought they would be okay. So that was just just bad management, just not, looking past issues that you shouldn't have been looking past. But he called them out fairly plainly. And so we pulled the feature off the site, and then we'll rebuild that. And that's actually one of the things that we're going to rebuild as a part of the investment that comes from this.
I'm really intrigued to know what this feature is.
Can I tell you when we launch it, or when we relaunch it?
Okay.
Yeah. I can tell you what it is. Like it's, so merch packs or onboarding packs. So think about.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
So we basically did a merch pack builder, but we built it off the back, again, of a feature that we'd seen elsewhere, and we rushed it, and we didn't think properly through how it was going to work with the kind of traditional purchase flow of the site, which right now, when you look at the site, again, all we've done at this point, which is, again, step one, is built I would say, great transactional engine that gives almost a B2C experience to B2B, right? And you go on the site and it all flows and feels fairly seamless, but there's a lot of thought and time and effort. I mean, just the pricing dynamics. Every single product on the site has multiple varying price points depending on how many you order. You have the actual physical products might have their own set of tiers, or they might have only one tier. They have, and then you add, decoration, which is what we call, the embellishment, whether it's printing or embroidery. So there's a lot of complexity that goes into the pricing engine as a result. And we have a mantra. I in particular have this mantra that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And so we've tried to make that as simple as possible, right? But then we just basically took this elegant solution to buy merch in bulk and tried to mash together this piece, and it just didn't work, right? And there were lots of reasons that were kind of plainly obvious that it wouldn't work. And there was one particular decision that I made that caused part of the journey to break down. It's just one of those things you have to live and learn from it, right? And we burned the pancake, and we have to throw the pancake out, and we have to.
Actually, love that analogy. When you make pancakes, and the first one's always disgusting, and then the last one's the best.
Sometimes, yeah, it depends. My kid, my little boy, he loves to cook, right? So we have that conversation a lot. But he's got to the point now where, again, we learned, right? So it's for cooking, it's just heat management, right? Just get the pan to be the right, Anyway, so the point is we learned from those things. And, fortunately, it wasn't a hugely costly exercise. And, we still do a lot of branded merch packs. And some of our, I would say some of our best work has been doing some really cool, like we did one for a huge, a company doing a huge acquisition, and they got all these beautiful branded merch packs, branded with their logo and everything, with these fantastic products inside, all again made to last, all made fairly, and they just went down a treat. So we still do it, but we're just doing it largely manually, right? So
Right.
we'll bring that feature where, again, that seamless online experience, you'll be able to do that when you build your merch packs as well. But that's one of the things that'll come next.
Where are your products made?
It depends. So they're made. Most things that are made anywhere in the world are made in China. So and that's just a fact. We have a couple of suppliers. So actually, this product is done by AS Color. So AS Color, you probably know, they have got a big presence actually in Melbourne. They're in Truganina. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you said it pretty well. Truganina.
Truganina.
I think just try your Australian accent a little
Okay,
harder
yeah.
when you say it. Truganina.
Truganina.
Beautiful.
Is that better?
You nailed it.
Nailed it.
Absolutely.
So they make things in Bangladesh, which, we have this conversation. You end up getting in this conversation from time to time about where things are made and why they're made, where they're made, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
Bangladesh is probably, if you think about the global stage anyways, they've been bad actors in a lot of ways. Actually, and they're not bad actors. It's that, the people going in and setting up shop there are forcing them to, produce things in suboptimal ways, if you will. But AS Color is not that way, right? AS Color is actually one of the most forward-thinking, responsible businesses we deal with. They've got a very responsible supply chain. They absolutely do not engage in slave labor or anything like that. The communities of the people that work for them in those factories in Bangladesh, they are improved, not trashed. People get paid fair wages, et cetera. So that's an example of somebody that is manufacturing in Bangladesh, but a lot of things get produced in China. Say what you want about China. There's perception around China being this and that, but we've had people get upset with us because we sold them a product that was made in China, and they're made by our manufacturers and our suppliers, and our suppliers are all Australian businesses. They're all local Australian businesses, and they create the things overseas and they bring them and they hold them in Australian warehouses. So these aren't just, we aren't just clicking buy and getting something sent over. We again, we're very conscious about the products we sell, and we're very conscious about the suppliers who sell those products. And anyways, China is bar none the best. They have the best manufacturing discipline in the world, so it makes sense that they make things there. But that said, like we sell, things by Bellroy, is a local, lovely local Australian business, which I love. I've been a longtime fan of Bellroy, and we stock their products. They manufacture in lots of places. I think some of their things come from India. I don't know about their supply chain enough to speak on their behalf, but they're made wherever they're made. The important thing is, though, that the people who make them and the businesses that we work with, they're all responsible businesses. There are suppliers in Australia that we won't work with. There's actually a lot of them, right? So there are a handful that we work with, and we ask them to sign a pledge for good, which says that they do not do X, Y, Z, which are all things that we just don't believe in. But they're all independently certified, and they all, again, they make things fairly and they make things to last, right? So that question about where it's made is, to me, far less important than how it's made, and are the people involved being taken care of.
That's great to hear, and I think it's great to hear that in terms of the values of the business, it's multifaceted. It's keeping things out of landfill. It's ensuring that the items are quality, they're made to last. You're looking at how your products are made, but at its core, it's essentially this technology business. You've got this great platform built. How do you envision AI revolutionizing the way that you guys work as a business?
Yep. I knew the AI thing was going to come up. It has to come up, right? Everybody loves talking about AI. It's all the rage. Interestingly enough, when I had a previous startup, which is B2C, and I was in the process of selling that actually when I met Sam, and I met him through Neil, who was advising me in that previous business. And anyways, back then I was interested in a couple of different next paths, and one of them was around machine learning, right? Which machine learning is ultimately what is AI, right? AI will transform every industry, every business. It will be far more pervasive to the world and society than the internet has been, right? So just think about that for a second, right? Think about back, in 1997, 98, what's the internet thing, email thing,
The internet to me was MSN. That's all I used it for when it came out.
Yeah, when it came out. So I was in America. So I was, AOL, America Online.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, which I think AOL is still around. But AI will transform just about everything, that happens in our digital lives and beyond. So that said, that's my future view of what AI is. People get very excited about AI, and investors want to invest in AI, and we find, like, I think if you look at earnings calls, just like setting up shop in China, 5 or 7 years ago, everybody on earnings calls from every public company was China, 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 China. Now it's AI, 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 right? So AI will be hugely pervasive, and we use it for lots of things. So we use a CRM called HubSpot. You've probably heard of that.
Oh, we use it too.
Yep. So HubSpot is a tremendous piece of software. Our chatbot leverages AI, right? There are several things actually when I think about, again, our simple goal for the platform, the technology platform, which to me is really what Mercha is. Our simple goal is to make it just super easy for the people who need to go and buy branded merchandise, which is, businesses. We're B2B only. We want to make it so painfully easy for them that they just really don't need to think about it, right? And so there's a lot of applications then when you think about, what AI can do. I mean, machine learning is the simple fact of using processing power to teach a computer how to do things, right? That's at its core kind of what it is. I'm probably botching that a little bit, but that's kind of what it is. There are lots of things, again, in the complexity of the back end of, the promotional products industry, of which my other co-founder, Brian Shanahan, who's a lovely gentleman, one of the things he said early on when we were talking about the business is that a lot of our IP and a lot of the value of the business is actually going to reside in what happens in the back end. And so there will be things that we will utilize, and there are things that we are looking at that will help, that do leverage AI, that will help us to do things better, faster, streamline them, et cetera, et cetera. So, artwork as an example, right? Like when we launched the platform a few years ago, we had this concept, and Sam was adamant that it had to work a certain way. And I'm grateful that he was very adamant about it because it was not easy to do, but we managed to get it back then. Just the simple aspect of you've got a product, right, a T-shirt, and I want to see what my logo looks like on it. So just dropping the logo on the product and looking at it online, right? And back then, and this is, again, we launched in February of 2022, right? It's not that long ago. Back then, the options for tools and services to do that, there weren't that many of them. Now there are literally, I can rattle off 15 amazing AI businesses that are doing that like that, right? So those little things, I think, it's super easy to get caught up in the whole AI thing. And, if you're thinking it as a retail investor, like I am invested in Google and Amazon and Meta and NVIDIA, right? All of the mega tech stocks, all mega cap tech stocks, they're all going to invest hundreds of billions of dollars in AI because they have to and they should. We will invest in it where and when it makes sense, right? But we definitely pay attention to it. If our goal is to automate and streamline this industry, AI is at its core a way to automate and streamline things in a really fantastic and easy way. So without saying anything that's too bleeding edge and forward thinking, that's what I'll say about that. We'll use AI if and when it makes sense, but we will certainly use it. And you over there and everybody who's listening to this, you will all be using AI. You are using it now. If you're on Facebook right now, the ads getting delivered to you. Meta is probably the front runner for actually using and monetizing AI. So if you're getting delivered ads right now, they're getting delivered to you mostly by a very advanced AI targeting mechanism, which is making Meta a truckload of money right now. So anyways, that's my long-winded tangent about AI.
No, I don't shut up about it. Honestly, I think people's eyes start to glaze over when I talk about AI. I'm the poster girl for it. I'm absolutely obsessed. So I couldn't help myself but to ask.
Oh, do it, man. It's interesting. And anybody who's not looking at it is a dinosaur. You have to pay attention to these things as they come. But I just, again, we're a pretty practical bunch, like we built the business with a very simplistic set of goals and shared value. We want to build the best product. We want to treat our customers really well. We want to do all the things that any good business does, right? Treat our customers very well, say what you're going to do, and then do it, to my conversation about not doing that. So again, we aren't going to get caught up in the everything AI and, like I don't even know if we say the word AI in our whole offer document, right? Because AI is a tool, and it's a tool like other tools. It's just going to be, the most interesting thing about it, I think at this point, is we actually don't have any idea how far and wide it's going to impact our lives. But I would say to think it's going to do anything less than transform everything that is attached to, a digital network, at the very least, it's going to be impactful.
Yeah,
it's going to touch everybody, and it's going to happen really, really fast. If you think about, again, just the 25, 30 years where the internet's been a thing, I think it will happen a lot faster than that.
Well, I'm excited to see how it one day integrates with your platform, and really excited to see how your raise goes, and see how it gets affected by having all these incredible new shareholders on board. And I really want to say thank you so much for spending time with me today. It's been such a pleasure.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure's all mine.
Yeah, I love going on a tangent, and we've gone on several, so it was lots of fun.
So good. Well, good luck with your cap raise, and can't wait to see how it goes.
Thank you so much.